the sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Reckless speculation.
Trade talk.
Juicy rumors.
And welcome into Mackie and Judd. Mackie on some business today, so he is out for today's episode, although he is on Purple Daily. So obviously check that out at the SKOR North platforms. It's Judd Zolgad, executive producer Declan Goff, and a man that you all recognize, at least if you're watching this on YouTube, Darren Doogie Wolfson. That's right, Darren. No, you, Channel 5 Eyewitness News, and of course, more importantly to us, Scoop fame for SKOR North as well. And we are going to combine the Mackie and Judd program today with the bonus Scoop session. And so it's not Reckless Speculation Thursday, but it's basically bonus Reckless Speculation week here. And so we're going to start off on this Tuesday with a very interesting, in some ways, Dukes trade that went down in the National Football League yesterday. A multiple draft pick trade between the Eagles and the Saints, in which the Saints get a couple first-round picks for this year from Philadelphia. Philadelphia, which went into the day with 3 first-round picks, then gets a first-rounder back from the Saints, and more importantly, gets a 2023 first-round pick back from the Saints, I should say. And so what you have now is an interesting positioning where the Eagles at least have 2 first-round picks in 22 and 2 in 23. Seeing these things led us to talk about on Purple Daily, Darren, what the Vikings are doing, if they should be copying either one of these formulas. And with pick 12, what are you hearing, at least as being bandied about TCO Performance Center, as far as possibilities?
Good morning, Judd. Good morning, Declan. I need that Phil Mackey schedule, by the way. Things are ramping up, Judd, right? All sorts of draft prospects are in town right now. We are in the calendar month of the draft. So it is draft time. What I'm hearing, Judd, why I told you off mic before we started this segment that Eagles-Saints trade had intrigue was New Orleans now has the ammo if they want to move up even further, right? That they lose the left tackle Armstead in free agency. I'm not entirely convinced they view Jameis Winston as the long-term answer at quarterback. So could they be interested in Malik Willis? Could they be interested in Kenny Pickett? Or could they be interested in, say, the left tackle from Northern Iowa? Now, some of those left tackles, those really good offensive linemen, the Alabama kid, the North Carolina State kid, we fully expect them to come off the board by pick 6, pick 7, maybe at the latest, maybe even higher. But that there is another tier of tackles where the Saints may have to move up from where they're at right now. What's the highest pick they're at now, Judd? Is it 16? So
I've got it right here.
What I'm
actually.
getting
Yes,
at, yeah, you can
16.
look that up.
Yep.
So if a certain player is on the board at 12, I fully expect the Saints to engage the Vikings. I was told the Vikings are very open-minded to moving down. Now, the caveat there is, is there any scenario where, the Georgia pass rusher Walker falls, where Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame, falls, where the value is too good to pass up, the old, we can't believe that guy was staring us in the face when our pick was up. I suppose that's always possible. But what I'm getting at, Judd, is I would not rule out the possibility of the Vikings engaging in dialogue about moving down, more so moving down than moving up.
What would you guess are the possibilities of teams to trade with beyond the Saints? Because Pittsburgh at 20 does seem, especially if Malik Willis is still there at 12, and I don't think he will be, but let's just say he does fall a bit. Pittsburgh is in desperate need of a long-term solution at quarterback. The Vikings will be eventually, but I don't think that they would pull the trigger on that in the first round this year. What have you heard about logical candidates beyond the Saints as far as potential trade partners?
Well, I agree with you on Pittsburgh. The Mitch Trubisky contractual numbers are finally out. If you look at the contract, put it this way. Bottom line, the Steelers absolutely can take a quarterback, think about the future. That hey, if Trubisky plays well in 2022, fine, so be it. Maybe he is the long-term answer, but based on the way the contract is worded, I'm just telling you, the Steelers are very much in the market for a quarterback. So yes, I would agree with that speculation that if Willis somehow falls, I'm with you. I'm not sure Pickett or Willis will be there at pick 12. I would not be shocked if there's a scenario where both are off the board. Malik Willis taking draft visits to the Falcons, to the Panthers. The Panthers don't have a second-round pick, don't have a third-round pick.
Yeah.
Like the Panthers, right? Like at pick 6, like the Panthers are taking a quarterback, right? Now maybe they end up moving down if they end up ultimately loving the Cincinnati quarterback or the Ole Miss quarterback, figuring, hey, we can move backwards. Let's allow somebody else to move up. But like to me, the Panthers are landing a quarterback in the first round. So figure one comes off the board there. And I don't know. Like I think somebody else might jump up above the Vikings at pick 12. I think the more likely scenario is there's a certain offensive lineman, a tackle, on the board at 12, or some team wants to move up for that particular player. That would then allow the Vikings to move back. So I would look at teams, I don't have the full list in front of me, but look at teams behind the Vikings that have a need at the tackle position.
Doogie, just percent chance as it stands April 5th. And like you said, the draft board, it will most likely play the biggest factor into this. That's what happened with the Vikings. Last year, they ended up moving down. They obviously take Christian Darrisaw. But your reckless speculation, percent chance as it stands now that you think the Vikings move down in the draft from pick 12?
35%?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not towing that 50-50 line, Declan, because I hate that answer when you're asking me for a percent chance. So I will say 35%. But I think that's a healthy enough number where I think it's worth discussing. Like, it's absolutely a talking point for the next 3.5 weeks.
Yes, and what makes this entire process to me so intriguing, Doogie, is this. We don't know. Like, we have no idea what these guys are going to do. We have no clue what their philosophy is. Like, they could – we became so used to what Rick did, right? Trade back, trying to accumulate picks. Like it was as predictable as you could possibly get by the end. So with Kwesi, I'm really curious to see what the philosophy is. And I think there's no question that if nothing else, the decision-making made by Kwesi is going to be fundamentally different because it's probably going to be made with very different resources than Rick used. It's going to be made on, more of a analytics. It's going to be made on different things. And so I keep saying, I think that the next few months are going to be incredibly interesting just to see them play out as far as what the thought process are going to be. Because I think, I'm not positive of this, that they will eventually be different from Rick. Now, free agency was not as different as I expected, but at some point in time, I got to believe that there's going to be a separation between how Rick did business and how Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is going to do business.
100%. As far as I know, Judd, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah has not made one pro day. There is one big pro day remaining. That is LSU tomorrow. Derek Stingley Jr., a really good cornerback, but he's dealt with injuries going back 2 years, but he was really good in 19. You talk to some LSU people, some others that are familiar with his body of work. They will tell you that, some of the battles in practice, him versus Jamar Chase, were legendary. That Stingley Jr., as a freshman in 2019, performed at a very, very high level. That there's a lot to like, even with the injury history the last couple of years. So this is a big pro day tomorrow for Stingley Jr. The Vikings certainly will have a presence. But unless Kwesi is going to Baton Rouge tomorrow, and I don't have a sense that he is, I don't think he will ending up at a pro day. Rick Spielman went to, give or take on a yearly basis, 3, 4, 5, 6 pro days. He wasn't at 12, but he certainly went to a number of pro days. I remember a few years ago, he was at BYU. Now, they had a pretty good linebacker at the time, but I'm like, Rick Spielman went to BYU's pro day? Huh. He'd always go to Ohio State. I get that with the family connection. Then oftentimes the Ohio State and Michigan pro days were neck and neck, day by day, side by side. So, he'd end up in Ann Arbor. But like BYU, like, and Rick went to how many different college games during the season? Like maybe Kwesi will eventually, but he's doing more of his scouting on film, not in person. So yeah, I am curious to see. Although I might say, Judd, there may not be a trend. Like it may be year by year. That maybe this year he stays at pick 12, doesn't ultimately move down, but next year moves down or heck moves up depending on how the season goes. Maybe they're in a position to move up to land C.J. Stroud of Ohio State, Bryce Young of Alabama, one of those stud quarterbacks. You know, you look at the quarterbacks available in the 23 draft, certainly better than this year. So, yes, I will be very intrigued to see how all that plays out. I'm curious to see, like, I can give you a list of 12 or 13 names. I don't have all 30 plus names that are in town this week, but I can give you a good 12 or 13 names. Like, do they end up taking any of those kids? Like, oftentimes, Rick, you know, you go back many years, like, guys they brought in for top 30 visits, like, the Vikings selected a lot of those guys, right? Do the Vikings end up taking any of these guys that are being brought in for visits this week? So, yeah, I will be curious to see as the years play out, you know, if there is a trend or multiple trends that do develop.
So Rick brought them all in for to come here at once because his philosophy on life was he wanted these 30 kids to basically have to interact, and then the Vikings would watch that to sort of try and pick up on tendencies and trends just of these guys as people. This sounds like they're bringing in people at the same time, but not in as large a group. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, like there's a lot of guys in town right this second, but yes, I don't think they're all together over at TCO. So there is some space in between. Like I know one prospect, a safety from Louisiana, he's due in today, flying in today, and his visit stretches into tomorrow. But then there's some other guys that are leaving today. So a bulk of their visit was yesterday, was Monday, the 4th of April. So it is stretched out over kind of this 72-hour stretch, but there will be certainly some interaction.
Dukes, I keep seeing on our YouTube comment section and our feedback via the SKOR North app that obviously, you know, defense is the biggest need of the Vikings. They could get a corner, right? They could get a defensive end. But I'm also seeing a lot of fans recklessly speculating on could they take another chance at a skill position like wide receiver. Now, when you think the Vikings, you see Justin Jefferson, right? Adam Thielen still up, although up there in age, still a productive guy, and KJ Osborne emerging. Do you think the Vikings could end up still taking a skill position when the first, you know, day 1, day 2, first 3-4 rounds of the draft?
First 3 or 4 rounds, Declan? Yeah, that would not surprise me. They do have at least one wide receiver in right now for a visit, a kid from Oklahoma State that is intriguing, Tay Martin, but he's not necessarily considered a top 75 type prospect. But yes, like Chris Olave, Ohio State. Like, that kid, the way he can stretch the field, like, that would intrigue me a lot. The other Ohio State receiver. Yeah, I mean, you look at kind of the middle of the first round, there are some guys, right? The Alabama receiver coming off an injury, but he's really, really good. He was hurt in the bowl game. But, like, there's a lot of intrigue there. You think about Kevin O'Connell, what he had with the LA Rams, multiple stud wide receivers. You look at the structure of the Adam Thielen contract. Is Thielen even here in 23? Like, I was led to believe when they redid the deal that there was a good chance Thielen would be here 22 and 23. But now I'm wondering, like, is he for sure here in 23? Like, I don't know if we can put that in ink just based on the way the contract looks to me. So, yeah, like, I wouldn't necessarily rule that out. I don't know about pick 12 or if they move down in the first round. But yeah, maybe when thinking about, you know, those picks on Friday, like Declan, I wouldn't necessarily rule that out at all.
That makes more sense. Like, I got to think if they keep 12, I'm guessing they go defensive player. If they move down, that might change. But I agree with you. So Friday is rounds 2 and 3, right? I would be very surprised if they went defense. I got to think there's going to be one day 2 offensive pick.
I would agree on that.
Total guess.
Now, could it be an interior offensive lineman? Like if they move down in the first, what about the Johnson kid from Boston College? Or they've done a ton of homework on this kid Strange, interior offensive lineman from Tennessee, Chattanooga. Formal interview at the Combine. He is now in right now for a visit. Like, I don't think that's a smokescreen. I think there's genuine interest in this kid Strange. And I think he's a day 2 pick. Maybe more so 3rd round, not 2nd round. But could they go interior offensive line later on day 2?
How about the center from Nebraska?
Well, how about any center?
Killer
How about
Pro
Lindenbaum
Day?
at pick 12? I mean, can we
I
rule
can't.
out the center at pick 12?
Yes, I think you can. And now, if they move back,
I think you're right. I think they
20?
probably go
Maybe.
defense at pick 12 if they stay at 12. But I'm just saying my own personal opinion is I think there's a lot to like about the Iowa kid.
Yeah.
The optics would be weird. I get it. Taking
Yeah.
a center for the second time in 4 years, 3 years, really, right? Wasn't Bradbury 19?
He was.
They're not picking up the 5th-year option on Bradbury's contract. I think we know that. The 5th-year option will be over $12 million. That we know. That deadline is a few weeks away, but we know that. They're not picking up the Bradbury 5th-year option. But, like, Lindenbaum, right? Like, there's so much to like. So, yeah, I'm with you. They probably go defense if they stay at 12. But I'm just saying my own personal opinion, Judd, is I would take a look at the Iowa offensive lineman at pick 12.
I don't see how you cannot have at least a competition with Bradbury for that job. I'm not saying he's going to lose it for sure, but right now there's no one to compete with him. I don't think so. Like, that's the one thing is I think you're going to get somebody to compete with him.
Yes. I don't know who that is. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in the comment section right now are like, go sign J.C. Treader. Go get Treader. I think they're going to bring in somebody for competition. I'm not necessarily suggesting it's going to be J.C. Treader. I also wonder about Treader's health. Maybe that's delaying, what's going on right now with free agency. But, I don't think Garrett Bradbury is being handed anything, in spite of some of Kevin O'Connell's public comments. Yes, I fully expect there to be healthy competition at the center position, whether that's draft or they bring in some other free agent later on. I fully expect that. I also fully expect them to bring in a safety. They've got a couple safeties in right now for visits. Kid from Illinois, Joseph. Kid from Louisiana, Butler. But there's still some veteran safeties out there. I still hear that there's one veteran safety that's pretty good. Not Honey Badger, who's visiting the Saints today. I've not heard Honey Badger steam. But another pretty good safety, at least a guy that's shown he can play in the league, that views this as a very interesting opportunity, that it's more his agent trying to drive the bus, trying to get him in for a visit, trying to convince the Vikings to take a long look at his client. But, I'm not told that the Vikings are hanging up the phone. So whether it's a veteran safety or drafting a safety, I fully expect them to bring in somebody to compete with Cam Bynum.
All right, let's transition. Twin scoops. Opening day, well, it's scheduled for Thursday. Sounds like it's probably going to be on Friday because we're going to get snowed on Thursday. Let's start with this one. What happened in the pursuit of Sean Manaea, who over the weekend, I believe, was traded to the Padres for their 12th and 26th picks? Because the last time we talked to you, basically the word was that the A's had stopped engaging the Twins on trade talks.
Yes. Yeah, depending on what list you look at, Baseball America, Keith Law. But, yeah, it looks like the A's got back the Padres' 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th prospect, and 26, 27, 28, 29. Nothing that blows you away. So then the question is, the Twins couldn't top that? If the Twins really wanted Sean Manaea, that would not have been a tough package to top. I'm led to believe, for what it's worth, because Journalism 101, why is this person lying to me? But one person directly involved suggested to me that the Twins never had a chance to top the Padres offer. I've also been told going back weeks that the Twins do prefer Montes over Manaea. Manaea's got a price tag of close to $10 million. He is a free agent after the season. Now, the Twins are not married to a certain number payroll-wise. I think Jim Pohlad would absolutely give Derek Falvey the green light to bring in a player at $9 or $10 million. But it doesn't sound like the Twins ever had an opportunity that, for whatever reason, the A's front office, which is a pretty good front office, all things considered. I hate the fire sales that have taken place, but pretty good front office, that they specifically identified these Padres prospects, that they really wanted at least one of these guys That's why they viewed the Padres as an ideal trade partner on Sean Manaea.
Dude, I also saw that the Padres, now that they obviously have a very formidable rotation, I mean, you can make a case they might have the best rotation on paper going into opening day this season, that because they have this surplus and they have other prospects that are now being log jammed out, they could also be looking to deal one of those guys, because I think they either are looking for even another corner outfielder to make a little bit more pop in that lineup. Do the Twins ever surface back to the Padres and look for a starting pitcher from there after striking out potentially with Manaea and things just stalling out right now with Oakland? Could they find another trade partner with these Padre prospects or one of these arms that are now log jammed with that rotation basically set?
Yes, I don't know, Declan, if the Padres have the best rotation, but they certainly have one of the deepest, and it's a good rotation. So, we're debating semantics. It is a solid rotation. I worry about, some guys health-wise, where guys are at, Snell and, the former Indian, Clevenger, coming back from an injury. But, yeah, they have some guys, right? So, like, Chris Paddock is the logical trade candidate. Of all the guys, it's Chris Paddock. He's a Scott Boras guy. The Twins have a great relationship all of a sudden. They didn't years ago, but all of a sudden, especially now coming on the heels of the Carlos Correa edition, the Twins have an excellent relationship with Scott Boras. Now, it's not like Chris Paddock is a pending free agent or anything like that, but Scott Boras has enough power. I'm just saying, yes. Do I think the Twins have either discussed Chris Paddock with the Padres or will in the near future? 100%. I would not rule that out. That doesn't mean he's the only, possibility. Montes, to me, it's still when, not if, the A's move Montes, right? So when the A's decide to ramp talks up on that front, the Twins will be heavily in that mix. And inevitably, there will be some other guys as well that come to the forefront. So yes, the Twins' pursuit of a starting pitcher has not stopped.
Trade talk is great fun. But Darren, on my no trade list, do you know what I've got? I've got my chill boys, because I'm not giving up my chill boys for nothing. There's no offer that the A's, the Padres, the Rams, you bring on the team, the Bulls could make me, that would make me trade my chill boys. The Long Johns, going nowhere. The Boxers, Declan, as you can tell people, going nowhere. No move clause, no trade clause. Try them out, and you'll feel the exact same. It's a Minnesota-based company. They do fantastic work, and I'm not kidding about that. Chillboys.com, chillboys.com. I got a question for you, Darren, based on this too. What's your sense, and I don't mean to inflame here, okay? So I'm asking a question from a place of curiosity, not a place of hot takingness. What's your sense on what the Correa contract, which is not cheap, has done to the Twins' financial flexibility? Because on one hand, I'm sure it impacts it, but on the other, once you sign him, you might as well go in. Like this is a 1 year, potentially you're in. Like you're in the pool, so let's swim. So what's your sense on how the Twins balance what the Correa contract means from a financial standpoint of it's a big hit with we might as well push all our chips in now, because, there's a very good chance Carlos Correa, being realistic, is not going to be here in 2023.
Yeah, there is payroll flexibility. Like, let's go back to the A's. If the A's said to the Twins, okay, you take Sean Manaea, we want, hypothetically, Matt Wallner, Forest Lake kid, but he's probably in that 12 to 17 prospect ranking range. Although 12. I like Matt's future. I really do. And you name an arm that's in that 25 to 35 range, or an infielder, you name whatever prospect you want. So the A's say, give us Wallner, give us this other guy in that 25 to 35 prospect ranking range. You can have Sean Manaea. Jim Pohlad wasn't going to say no to Derek Falvey and Dave St. Peter. He wasn't going to say, whoa, Sean Manaea at $9.5 million? No, can't do that. Like, Jim Pohlad would have approved said trade. So that is one example, Judd, where they could have absolutely absorbed this week an extra $9.5 million on their payroll. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah,
but I'm just telling you, they have enough flexibility where I fully expect. I mean, I don't know if it'll be April 18th, May 18th, June 18th. The trade deadline is officially August 2nd. I don't know if you saw that. The trade deadline this year will be August 2nd.
Oh,
Which
it
I
got
believe is a
set?
Tuesday in the afternoon. Yeah, August 2nd.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah, not July 31st. It'll be August 2nd. So
Yep.
I fully expect the Twins to add a starter at some point, unless they get off to the worst possible start. Now, it's a pretty challenging schedule, at least through the first, 10, 11 games. But, unless they are rock bottom on May 15th, May 30th, June 10th, I fully expect at some point, Judd, the Twins are going to add a starting pitcher.
Interesting. All right. Final scoops, my man. Clear out the scoop bag.
Just got an update on Jaden McDaniels into my text messages. And Chris Finch talks here in a few minutes, so he may verbalize some of this. I'm told doing a lot better, progressing very well. Possible chance he goes light in games, which could even be tonight. Now, I don't think we'll see Jaden McDaniels on the court tonight at Target Center, but they do play Thursday against the Spurs, Sunday against the Bulls. It's progressing very, very nicely. You think about the very, very strong likelihood that the Wolves will be playing the Clippers either 1 week from today or 1 week from tomorrow. Now, there's like an 8 or 10% chance they can climb up to 6, but in all likelihood, they will remain in the 7th spot. They've been in the 7th spot for all but one day going back 2.5 months. There was like one day where Denver slipped below them, then Denver won the next night, jumped back above them. But for the most part, going back 2.5 months, the Wolves have been in the 7th spot. All signs point to Wolves Clippers at Target Center next week. How nice would it be to have Jaden McDaniels for at least a little bit just to guard Paul George, just to frustrate a little bit Paul George. So it's trending in the right direction. One other basketball note, Kendall Brown, Eastridge High School, just finished his freshman year at Baylor. He is all in on the NBA draft. He picked his representation. He will be repped by former Gopher, this is why I mention it, former Gopher Bill Duffy.
Who was McHale's guy for years, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Bill's represented
He's represented
any
a ton of
number
people.
of
Okay.
All-Stars, heck, Hall of Famer, Steve Nash, and Bill Duffy are incredibly close. So, yeah, Bill Duffy has been, one of the power brokers, agent-wise going back a long, long time. So good choice by Kendall Brown.
And has Gopher football spring practice started?
It has, yeah. In fact,
Okay.
later today, there is an open practice. So later today, 4:30, Athletes Village, the indoor. They're not practicing outdoors today, thankfully. If you're a fan and you want to go check out the Gophers today, you can do that. Speaking of the Gophers, Asezi Otamawu, good defensive lineman from last year's team.
Look at
He
you
hurt
say
his
that.
knee in the bowl game, that meaningless bowl game in
Yeah.
December. I don't know why
bad
guys
turf.
play that are draft eligible or thinking about entering the draft. Why they would play in a meaningless bowl game is beyond me. But he played in that game, hurt his knee. There was hope he'd be back by the combine. He wasn't able to do anything in Indy, so he held his own pro day yesterday, Monday on campus. 10 teams had representation. Some teams couldn't make it because a lot of teams are hosting draft prospects this week. So some teams just couldn't make it. So those teams will get video sent their way. The whole thing was videotaped. By the way, he's one of the guys that will be visiting the Vikings. He's visiting the Bears, Raiders, Colts, and the Vikings. Intriguing day 3 defensive lineman, Asezi Otamawu.
And I saw a story in the Star Tribune today from our buddy Chip Scoggins. So PJ Fleck, I didn't know this, had some type of accident like in the summer of 2019 and had facial work done. And I saw a picture. Looks different.
Oh, yeah.
Looks different.
I
I
bonded
didn't even
with
realize
him.
that till now.
Yeah, I was with PJ for, a brief moment, couple moments at Pro Day a few weeks ago. That's one where, yes, I've seen the pictures. I fully acknowledge something took place. I figured it was some sort of surgery, but that was one where I decided not to poke and prod, that I just decided that's just not my business, but clear as day that his appearance has changed.
I didn't even know about that.
Heck, dramatically. But yeah, I'm glad Chip asked it because there was definitely a curiosity factor there. A lot of people were asking questions. I just decided on my own, let somebody else attack.
Yeah,
that.
you're not the cosmetic
not
guy.
my business. But
You're
yes,
not the TMZ guy.
I saw the pictures, but then when I bonded ever so briefly with PJ at Gopher Pro Day, like it was clear as day as he's standing face to face with me.
All right, sir. Great stuff. And we'll talk to you on Thursday, hopefully with Mr. Mackey back from Cincinnati. Okay.
Okay, sounds good, boys. See ya.